What the Independence Day Resurgence. Now, if anyone who actually watched my last video, which was the review of the first movie, you'd all know that I actually really loved that first film, Independence Day. I'm a massive fan of the first film, and my last video, my review of that film, went on a bit too long. I tried cutting it down as much as I could. I was really excited to see Resurgence. And I've been waiting for this film for years, 20 years now. And I'm just so happy that it's finally come along. I wasn't expecting a perfect film. I wasn't expecting this to be absolutely amazing. I wasn't actually expecting this film to be as good as the first film. This film, for me, was one of the biggest disappointments of the year. So yeah, I'm a massive fan of the first film, and I was really excited for the sequel. So we went to the midnight showing last night, and the cinema that we went to was showing the first film as well, just before it. So that got me just as excited, because I never got the chance to see the first film on the big screen, and I did. And I gotta be honest with you, it was really impressive. When it came to the actual effects, yeah, you could see they looked dated, but it looked absolutely amazing. It felt amazing. It was just really great to see that first film up on the big screen for myself for the first time. But then we had the sequel, Resurgence, and this film was a massive letdown for myself. Before I went in, I didn't actually read any reviews. I didn't see any star ratings. But after the film, I had a look, because I was so taken back by it. I wanted to see if I was actually not the only one. And I'm actually very surprised on the actual reviews and ratings this film has been getting at the moment, because this film was absolutely shit. Now, before I went in, the bar for this film, for me, from my point of view, I hadn't set the bar very high. I wasn't expecting this to be an absolutely amazing film. I wanted something fun, enjoyable, with a bit of 90s nostalgia. It didn't have any of that. I think the only part of this film that had a bit of 90s nostalgia was there's a shot, and I don't think this is much of a spoiler, but there's a shot of the ship coming over the camera like it did at the beginning of the first film, and that kind of made me smile a little bit and give me a bit of nostalgia. But this film was just a massive CGI bloated mess. Now, critics criticised the first film of having cardboard cutout characters, no character development, or hardly any character development. And I defended those criticisms in my review for the first film. I think the film had enough character development for what it was. I could see the type of film it was being, which is this big, you could say dumb, I suppose, but big, dumb, exciting film. But the first film had the right balance of everything, coming down to the humour and the emotion and the character development. And yeah, okay, the script was patchy in places, but it wasn't as bad as critics were making it out to be. Now, this film is exactly that. The script in this film is absolutely terrible. The acting is terrible. A lot of the actors in this film look very bored. Even Jeff Goldblum didn't really impress me in this movie. Some of the gags that he was given didn't really make me chuckle. It's almost as if they had taken the humour from the first film and upped it to 100. This film had no character development. I didn't care about any of the characters at all. I didn't feel really invested in the story, and again, the story is pretty straightforward like the first film, but everything that they had achieved in that first film, which was the kind of realism, and they'd grounded it, but they'd also add that kind of fun element with the humour and everything. This film didn't have any of that. So the fear of this thing, these aliens coming, which the first film had, there was none of that in this film. There was no sense of fear, and it really does lack the tension that the first film had. These things just come, and the pacing, and this brings me to the pacing. Really, the pacing of this film was way over the place. It was so fast that I could barely keep up with the movie, and now I really wanted to like this movie. I really wanted to enjoy it. Obviously, being such a massive fan of the first film, and I was trying so hard to really find something in this film, but not even the action really kind of entertained me in the slightest. The climax, I looked at my phone once just to look at the time because I just wanted it to end. For me, really, this film was that bad. I can't quite understand some of the reviews that it's received. You know, there's films this year that have been critically bashed, and there's a couple of them, and I felt like they didn't deserve it. And in this case, it's the other way around. There's a lot of people praising this film, and I'm like, what, really? So, I can see certain people enjoying it. I mean, the person that I actually went with this show in with didn't hate, but wasn't a fan of the first film, didn't really like it, but actually ended up enjoying the sequel, and he actually liked, this particular person liked the sequel more than the first film, which surprised me, because as the film finished, I had to apologise to this person that I dragged along to come to this midnight show with me, and I apologised. That's the first thing I did, and he said, well, I actually enjoyed it. I only liked it more than the first time. So there are people I feel that are going to enjoy this purely for the action. But for me, this was not what the first film was. And there's a lot of people claiming that it is, but it's not. There's nothing in this film, for me anyway, that resembled the first film. It's just, they'd taken elements of the first film, upped it to 100, destroyed any sort of realism, any of the groundness that the first film had. And while little character development, I suppose, the first film did have, this had none of it. I didn't care for anyone in this film. The dialogue was terrible. There were a couple of questionable scenes. There's one scene I am going to mention because I don't think it's a spoiler, but it really bugged me from the start. And this was in the first 20 minutes, as when they first start getting signs that there's something approaching Earth again, and it's something that happens to one of the rings of Saturn anyway. And you've got this. I can't remember the name, to be honest with the guy, but that's how uninteresting the characters actually were. But he's obviously starting to panic, this guy. I'm going to call him a general. I'm not sure actually who he was. But he rings his wife and tells his wife to go to her sister's. What good is that going to do? There's even scenes that I would have hoped would have captured the tension in the first one. For example, the lab scenes with the aliens. Now, when it came to the actual aliens in the bunker, I actually thought, well, I hoped they would have recreated that tension, and it had none of that. I suppose the only kind of praise I could give is I did like the little improvements they had made of the actual aliens themselves, but and they didn't really, when they were in the biomechanical suits, they didn't really look all that CGI, but when they actually came out of the suits and you had the classic looking alien, they looked absolutely terrible. And I'm not saying that as in design, but they were CGI and they looked CGI. It was bad CGI. So, like, again, comparing it to the first one, when you first get when the ships first emerge from the clouds and descend over the cities, and you had all that tension and you could feel the fear of the people, and it had none of that. When this ship arrives, and like you've seen it all in the trailers, most of this movie you would have already seen in the trailer, especially if you've seen the 5-minute trailer, and you've got the gravity well taking everything up, the buildings and everything is ripping it up, and visually it looked good. To be honest with you, visually it looked quite nice, and I did like how Roland shot those scenes, but it was just so empty, and it didn't have any of that tension or that fear of the unknown, you could say, as the first one had. And that destroyed this film for me. It destroyed that sort of feeling that the first one gave me. I think even if I was 9 years old again and I'd watched this for the first time, I probably would have enjoyed it, but would have learnt to hate it the older I'd gotten. Because this film just got everything wrong. It was just an absolute mess. I am really disappointed with this film. One of the worst films of the year. And I really can't find anything redeeming about this film. I will be getting it on Blu-ray when it's released, because I am a completist. And yeah, hopefully when I get the Blu-ray and I rewatch it again, because I don't think I could drag myself to the cinema and watch this again, even though there's a slight part of me that wants to. I don't think I'll see this again in the cinema, but perhaps when I see it on Blu-ray, I might do another review on it, an updated review, because perhaps my opinion might have changed. Perhaps I might see the fun side of it and the entertainment side of it. But last night I was left very, very disappointed, especially after seeing the first film on the big screen and then having that straight after. There was a massive comparison in quality between the two films. There was no substance to the film. It was just empty. So the only way I can describe this film is very big, dumb, and empty. Yes, the first film was big and dumb, but it was also smart for what it was. They did that film right. This film, I can't even say it's fun. I can't even say it's entertaining. And I can't even really say it's 90s nostalgia, because it isn't. For me, this was more of an insult. I would be giving Independence Day, Resurgence, an F. Okay, yeah, I am very disappointed after that. I mean, I was really, really excited, and it was one of my most anticipated films of the year, but there we go. So, thank you again, everyone, for watching. I will be posting a review up straight after this, hopefully, of an unboxing. It's a Z-Box unboxing, but this is a Z-Box Threads. A bit cheaper than the actual Z-Box itself, and it only contains a t-shirt and a book. So I'll be doing that in my next video. Thanks again for watching.